So about a month ago, I take the Motorcycle Safety Foundation class at the Harley dealership in Oxford. There was 4 of us that actually made it to the riding part of the class, which is like 2 days, 6 hours a day of nothing but sitting on a bike. Well, I'm not going to say that I'm the best, most natural born rider out there, because I know I'm not, but I happen to be the best one that was in the class that I was with. So everybody had their own funny little things, and I'll tell you a little bit about them because I thought it was fun. First of all, we got Bernadette. I call her that because she looks like Bernadette off Big Bang Theory, and I really don't remember anybody's last name. Well, they never gave a last name, but I don't remember some of them's first names, so we're going to give them all nicknames. Bernadette was afraid to turn the bike without putting her foot down. I already owned a Harley Sportster 1200, which is not an overwhelming bike, but it's not a slow bike by any means, not a lightweight bike. She's kind of scared of it, hadn't rode it much, so she didn't really have much of a sense of balance on it. So, and putting your foot down when you're going real slow is fine, because you're not going to outrun your own foot and yank yourself off the bike or anything stupid like that. But she had such a habit of it that she wasn't able to do the exercises the way they wanted us to do them, and she wasn't able to get to the speeds that they wanted us to get to do these exercises. So at the end of day 2, they give you a little driving test, and she passed by like 1 point, I think. So she's able to go get her motorcycle license endorsement. It's good to go. She's gonna have to spend a lot of time at home working on stuff, but technically, according to the state, she's good to go on a motorcycle out here on the road with the rest of us. Insane. Can't turn without putting her foot down, but she's good to go on the road. Okay. Anyway, the other lady that was in the class with us, we call her Tallapoosa County because that's where she's from. She had the thickest accent I've ever heard in my life. I'm from Tallapoosa County. Sounds just like that, right? She was afraid of the throttle. Totally afraid. In the MSF class, you really are not going to have a whole lot of opportunity to get above 20 miles an hour and shift into second gear. I mean, that's some of the basic stuff they teach you, is you learn how to change gears by going from first to second back to first during the exercises we do. Well, I don't know if she ever made it into a second gear, or if she did, she was going so slow she was bogging it down in second, because she was so afraid of any sort of speed whatsoever. And she already had a bike too. She should have been used to it, but she's kind of like me. She lives on a backcountry road where there's not a whole lot of traffic. She can practice at her own pace on her own time. And her husband had a bike too, and he had already talked to her about just converting her bike to one of those 3-wheel deals, you know, so she wouldn't feel like she was going to be falling all the time. Well, she wants to learn how to ride a motorcycle the right way, but evidently she don't want to learn bad enough to go to class and do like the most basic stuff that they have you do. She not only failed, she failed hard. They allow you 16 deductions when you take your test, and it's only like 5 exercises. So there's really not, I mean, you can either do basic stuff or you can't. And I screwed one of these up. I'll tell you all about that later. But her biggest one, like, she had 27 points off, I think. 27 deductions out of a possible 16 to still be able to pass and go to the driver's license office and get your license. What really screwed her up, other than U-turns, was emergency stopping. They want you to get the bike up to 20 miles an hour. They use a little stopwatch to kind of figure out how long it takes you to get from the start line to wherever you're supposed to start stopping. It's not a speedometer. They don't radar gun you for 20 miles an hour, but you've got a set amount of time. You don't have to get up to 20, because a lot of people, my experience taking the one class that I took, are not going to. I did. Most people won't. Whatever speed it was she got to, when she hit the line that you're supposed to get to hit the brakes and do an emergency stop, took her over 40, 45, 46 feet, something like that, to come to a stop. I was doing a legit 20 miles an hour. It took me 11 feet. Alright, bikes can stop quick. They can stop really quick. They'll stop faster than your car ever will. So anyway, now to the fun part. Freaking Leroy Jenkins. I'm not going to tell you what color Leroy was, because I'm calling him Leroy. If you've seen the meme, you'll understand when I get to this part of the story why I'm calling him Leroy Jenkins. We get to the part towards the end of day one where they block off the entire range except for just the outside rim of it and set it up like a little, like old off racetrack. They're going to give us a taste of speed. So they tell you need to get into second gear as soon as you can, start accelerating, get up to whatever speed you're comfortable with on the straightaways, and then right here at this cone is where you're going to start slowing down to make your corner. Alright, no problem. We're going to have a little bit of fun. And it was. But because we were actually doing a little bit faster type thing and some cornering with actually leaning the motorcycle over, they would only let us go two at a time while two of us were parked beside where people were driving or riding, whatever. Uh-oh, there's gravel right here. This will be fun. Foot down, just like I'm griping about everybody else for having to do. Yeah, I do. Alright, anyway, Leroy Jenkins does not own a bike. Leroy Jenkins has never ridden a bike. Leroy's dad's a biker, but Leroy Jenkins does not want to learn how to ride from his dad because it's his dad. You know, dads they always tend to be a little bit rougher on you and expect you to know the things that they know. You know, I learned this from years and years of working with my dad. Anyway, he's taking this class basically just to figure out whether he wants to try and buy himself a bike, learn how to ride and all that kind of good stuff. So he makes a couple of laps and he's okay. And I'm sitting on the side of the course watching him in my rearview mirrors because they're coming from behind us as they're making their laps. I hear him coming behind me, normal speed, everything's fine, right? Well, wrong. As he passes me, he gets to his braking point and he does the thing that's easy to do when you're not used to using motorcycle controls. It's your front brake right here. He reaches up to grab his front brake and squeeze it. And when he squeezes, he yanks back on the throttle like that. And he also does the thing that you're not supposed to do, especially when you're in class. He didn't reach out and grab that clutch right there. That, when you squeeze that, you remove all power from the engine. Doesn't matter how much you rev the bike, it's not going to go anywhere. You're not putting any power to the rear wheel. You're safe. That's what they'll tell you. You're always in control of the bike because you can never not reach up with your left hand and pull that clutch in. Alright, he didn't pull his clutch in. So instead of stopping, he's accelerating towards this corner and he starts leaning over anyway instead of going to his emergency stop. And he falls. Slides the bike, slides himself. I thought the Harley dealership was going to have to rebuild the wall because the bike he was on nearly hit the thing. And he's driving, as he's coming past me, hitting the gas, the thing's revving up. All I can think of is Leroy Jenkins. And I'm trying not to laugh because the guy might be hurt, but he's not hurt because he's fine. But I felt bad for the dude. Well, they roll his bike in while everybody else is making sure he's okay. He has to fill out some sort of incident report later on. But Harley don't care. It's their bikes. They're little piece of junk bikes. They're not pieces of junk. They're new. Mine had like 300 miles on it. But it's the Harley Street 500, which has about 100 pounds more than this bike, but it sits lower, so it's easier weight to manage, I guess you might say. Less than half the amount of power that this bike has, and this is not a very fast bike. It'll go. It's fast enough to be fun, but it's not too awful rowdy. Anyway, he's probably doing every bit of 25 miles an hour when he slides, and of course they make you wear it at the very least long pants and a long sleeve shirt. You got to bring a helmet. Got to have something to cover your eyes if your helmet don't have a visor. So he rips a hole through the elbow of his sweatshirt, rips one of the back pockets off his jeans. His legs are fine, knees are fine. He loses just a little bit of hide off his elbow, just enough to where it stung when he got in the shower that night, he says. But and I got to give props to Leroy Jenkins for this. As soon as they rolled him a new bike to finish his class with that day, he gets back on the bike and picks up right where he leaves off. He's fine, not being timid, not being intimidated, not acting like he's scared to death now. You know, he shook it off and he got back on, and he went ahead and came back the second day and did all that with us, and I'm pretty sure he passed the test at the end of day 2. Matter of fact, I know he did because he was in the dealership with us. So that was all fun. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all where I messed up. We had to do a figure 8, which is basically the reason you do a figure 8. There's no reason to do a figure 8 on the road, right? Well, a figure 8 is 2 U-turns in 2 opposite directions. And everybody, most everybody, has a dominant side and a weaker side, including me. I don't turn right nearly as well as I turn left, and it's because of that throttle right there. When I manipulate the handlebars this way, I feel like I've got a lot less control over the throttle, which is where a lot of your bike control comes from, is how much throttle you're giving. You've got to be really precise with this when you're doing little low speed stuff like in that class. So I've been making U-turns all day. I dip a foot every now and then, but I'm kind of getting the hang of it. I'm getting my technique down, you know, drag a little bit of rear brake, give it a little bit of throttle, work on your fine clutch control. You know, if you do it right, it feels really good. If you do it wrong, you stick your foot down and you feel like an absolute retard. So anyway, the first part of the figure 8 is to the left. Of course, I handled that with a plumb. Absolutely perfect. Teardrop the front wheel and get turned around, get started with my right hand U-turn. And you've got limited space to do this, and that's the challenging part. Anybody can turn a bike 2 different directions. You've got to do this within a width of 20 feet. We've been practicing at 24 feet. They bring it in for the test and say, well, guess what, now you got less room, figure it out. That's a little bit of a challenge, but really no hill for a climber, so let's get her done. Anyway, somewhere in the middle of my right hand U-turn, I lose my balance, and instead of leaning the opposite direction, putting a little bit more pressure on the rear brake like I should have done, keeping the bike held upright, excuse me, I go ahead and throw my foot down. Oh, sorry. So I throw my foot down, and that just jacks my balance all up. I am no longer in control of what direction the bike is going, like not legit, not in the small space that I've been allotted to control the bike. So there's a box that we're supposed to be stopping in, like your front tire is supposed to go within the bounds of this box, and it's like 2 feet wide and maybe 3 feet long. Plenty of room if you know how to stop a bike, right? It's plenty of room. Well, problem is, by the time I actually get turned around and get my balance back and get my feet back on the pegs and get the bike moving the way it should be moving again, I'm not pointed anywhere near this box. So I do the only thing I can think to do other than just go find a rock to hide behind, because I've embarrassed myself now that I've been doing U-turns pretty decently all day, and now I can't do one now since it matters. I go in general direction of the box, but I'm way off to one side, and I stopped even with it, thinking, well, maybe, you know, I went and I stopped kind of almost nowhere near where I was supposed to have stopped at. I look up, and the instructor that's grading me is looking down at his paper, and he's shaking his head. Yeah. I mean, these instructors, other than telling us how to do these exercises and giving us our instructions, have said very little to me the whole time we've been doing this stuff, because I've needed not a whole lot of correction. You know, they stop and give me advice every now and then, tell me how I could do what I was doing better, but for the most part, when I would drive by, nobody would say anything, or somebody give me a thumbs up or say attaboy, you know, whatever. And there's more than one exercise where they would park everybody else and let me do a couple of tries at it with nobody in front of me, because you were supposed to get up to a speed. Nobody wanted to get up to that speed but me, so they would give me room to have a little fun and learn myself, instead of just me paying my money and them signing the thing and saying, here, you're good enough, here's your license. They gave me a chance to actually get some quality practice in, which I appreciated very much. And I kind of felt like a rock star doing it by myself while 3 other people are sitting there waiting, like, duh. But I don't really remember where I was going with all this. Oh yeah, I got 6 points counted off for that U-turn, or the figure 8 thing. It's like 2 points out for dipping my feet twice in the middle of one right-hand U-turn, and then 4 points for not ending up anywhere near the box. And the instructor was like, nobody has ever not even gotten near the box. Like, the box is a pile of crap over here, and you're over here not even getting a whiff of it. And I'm like, well, that makes me feel good, thank you, sir. But those were the only points I got counted off for any of the other 4 exercises we had to do on the exam. So I did kind of feel good about that. And at this point, I've had this bike for 2 weeks already, and I'm not wanting to get out and ride it a whole lot without a license, because I'm that guy that's going to get busted for riding without a license and get my bike towed, impounded, and all that stuff, plus several $100s worth of ticket, whatever it is. So basically all I did was ride the little 1 mile road that dead ends in front of my house, up and down. But evidently that was enough to kind of teach myself a little bit about throttle control, and more than a little bit about keeping my balance while I'm on the bike, which is probably why I did a little bit better than some of the other ones in the class, because I could sit on the bike without falling over. And I got to give it to the people at Mount Cheehaw Harley Davidson. As far as like a dealership goes, they never pressured us to buy anything Harley. Of course, they're sponsoring the class, so they made us do a facilities tour, introduce us to the service people, the salesman, the parts guy, the motor clothes guy, because you can't just wear clothes, you got to wear motor clothes if you're riding a Harley. Actually, you don't. Most Harley riders don't wear anything they wouldn't wear on the road or on the street. Anyway, says the guy wearing head-to-toe motorcycle gear. Anyway, they're really good people. Nobody ever was like, here, y'all need to buy some stuff. They were all just like, here it is. If you want something, we're here. If you don't want anything, that's good. Y'all enjoy your class. Have a good time. Really sweet people. Really supportive people. Really positive, energetic people. Of course, it's a dealership. They're trying to sell things. And part of that is acting like you're in a good mood all the time. But most of them seem like they were at least very genuine about wanting us to have a good time while we were there. Oh, our assistant driving instructor guy is retired Special Forces. Now he is over a bunch of Navy guys at a facility that controls drones. He wouldn't tell us exactly what he does there, other than he's the manager of whatever that program is, which means he probably can't tell us, and that's fine. Super cool dude. He came retired, stationed out of Hawaii. Really, I mean, just super cool guy to talk to. But I made a little mistake in front of him. Knowing what he was and what he had done, he made some joke about we're going to be doing motivational lunges the morning of day 2 when we got there, because everybody was all sleepy. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. A lot of us have had at least an hour's ride to get there. Nobody wants to be up that early on a Sunday morning. So he said something about motivational lunges, and I'm like, nah, no. If I'm lunging at anything, there better be something bigger than I am lunging at me, and I'm lunging away from it, because no. So he says something about, nah, it's good for you, blah, blah, blah. And here's my mistake. I said, actually, I asked him how old he was. And me and him are about the same age. And I said something about, yeah, but I'm high mileage. I mean, I've had a wreck or two in cars, and I hadn't wrecked a bike yet. Hope I don't ever. But I've always worked hard, had physical jobs, which is fine. It builds character and it builds muscle. You know, makes you a little bit physically and mentally tougher than some folks are. I'm not going to call anybody out on that. But, yeah. Anyway, don't ever tell a Special Forces guy that your body's high mileage, because the places he's been, the things he's done, stuff he's seen, and things that he's had happen to him, much less just the training that they do, you got absolutely no right whatsoever. And he laughed at me, not like spiteful. He thought it was funny. I thought it was funny too after I got over being embarrassed about saying it. Yeah, that's a little bit of a misstep on my part, which I'm very prone to do. Very, very prone to do. I stick my foot in my mouth all the time. That's why I don't open my mouth a lot. If you know me, and I'm not covered in a helmet talking to myself like right now, I don't talk a lot. I don't have a big emotional reaction to a lot of things. My wife calls me a robot. I don't typically get all that excited about things, but that embarrassed me a little bit. Sure did. You're riding a little bit close, bud. Anyway, that ended up being funny, and I'm not embarrassed anymore. I just still kind of wish I hadn't said that, though.